Hey everybody, it's Ian, the Kilter Crafter. I hope you're having a great day today. I am feeling a little under the weather, which is why you are not going to see me on camera today, and why my voice may be a little weak. But we have clue 7 for the Puzzle Mystery Quilt Tree of Life. I have my clue packet, I have my color guide, and of course I have my clue instructions. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to open up clue 7 and see what's inside. Starting off, we have 6 of small triangle Ds. We have 6 small triangles of C fabric. We have 8 small triangles of A fabric. We have 2 of our large F triangles. We have 4 squares of E fabric. We have 16 of our square D fabric. We have 6 of our C square fabrics. We have 4 of our A fabric, 4 squares of our A fabric. We then have 2 D rectangles, large D rectangles. And last but certainly not least, we have 8 of our A large rectangles. I'm going to go ahead and put these on the table next to me, and we'll go ahead and get started with step number 1. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with section 7A. It says to sew a small triangle of A fabric to a small triangle of D fabric. And we're going to make 4 of these half square triangles. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'll come back when I'm pressing it out. Okay, I have sewn all those 4 together, and now I'm pressing towards my A fabric, which in my colorway is going to be the yellow. So there we go, I have put all 4 of those together. Let's move on to step 2. Okay, moving on to step 2, it actually has us rotating our first step so that our A is pointing towards the left, and it says to join a D square to the right, and we're going to make 2 of these. So we're actually going to take 2 and set these aside. I'm going to do that right now before I forget. So I have 2 left, and we're just going to attach our D square so that it matches up with our D fabric. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those together, and now we're pressing towards our half square triangle. So I'm just going to go ahead and press it out like that. And remember, we only did 2 of these. We didn't do 4. We just did 2 of these. We set the other 2 half square triangles off to the side. That's step number 2. Let's move on to step number 3. Moving on to step number 3, it says we are going to sew an A square to the right of a D square, and we're going to make 2 of these. So super easy, super simple. I'm going to do that, and I'll come back when I'm pressing it out. Okay, I've sewn those together, and now I'm pressing towards my A fabric. So in my case, it's the yellow fabric. There we go, just like that. I have made 2 of these. Let's move on to step number 4. Moving on to step 4, it says to join a step 2 to the top of a step 3, and we're going to make 2 of these. We've got this kind of L formation kind of form in there. It's an upside down L, but still an L formation kind of form in there. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those together, and now we're pressing towards the top, or the side that has the half square triangle in it. We're going to be pressing in that direction. Might be a little tricky sometimes to make that happen with the bulk there in the half square triangle, but there we go. So I've completed 2 of those. Let's go ahead and move on to step number 5. Moving on to step 5, it says to take the 2 remaining step 1 units, and we're going to join them at the top of a D square. We're going to make 2 of these. So I'm just going to connect them just like that. Our A is going to be pointing up towards the top right, and then our D fabrics are going to be touching just like this. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those 2 together, and now we're pressing towards our D square just like this. And there we go, I've completed 2 of those. Let's go ahead and move on to step number 6. For step number 6, we're going to join a step 5 to the right of a step 4. So basically just continuing the pattern around as you see here. Makes it super easy to tell if you've got it right. I'm going to go ahead and sew these 2 together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Alright, I've sewn those together, and now I'm pressing it out, and I'm actually, whoops, I was about to press it the wrong way. I'm actually pressing towards the larger half, so away from the step 5 that we just added. You're going to be pressing towards the center of this little section. There we go, that looks pretty good. Alright, so I have completed those 2. Let's move on to step number 7. All right, we're going to be making our flying geese now, and in step number 7 it says to sew a small triangle of C to the top right of a large triangle F. We're going to press that, and then we're going to add our second C triangle to the left. Did I say left twice? I don't know. Add it to the right, and then to the left we're making flying geese. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back when I'm pressing them out. Okay, I've sewn those two together. We were only making 2 of these because I think we only had 2 of our F fabric. There we go. So I've made 2 of those. Let's move on to step number 8. Okay, moving on to step number 8, it says we're going to actually rotate step 7 so that the triangle is pointing down, and then we're going to join a C square to the left. We're going to make 2 of these, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn those together, and now I'm pressing towards my flying geese block. So away from the square towards the flying geese. There we go. We have completed 2 of those. Let's move on to step number 9. Step number 9 says that we are going to take our step number 8 and join it to the top of a step number 6. We're going to make 2 of these, and that will complete our section 7A. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, there we go. I have sewn those together, and now I'm pressing towards the top portion. So my flying geese, I'm going to be pressing in that direction. There we go. Mine's a little off here, but that's okay. I'm going to leave it be. I don't think anyone's going to notice. So there we go. There's our section 7A. Let's move on to section 7B. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with section 7B. We're going to start with step number 1, and it says to sew a triangle to a D triangle. We're going to do this 2 times, and this feels very reminiscent of step 1 over there on 7A. But I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, we're going to be pressing towards our A triangle, so I'm just pressing it towards my yellow fabric. There we go. So that is step 1. Let's move on to step number 2. Moving on to step number 2, it says to join an A square to the right of a step 1. We're going to make 2 of these, so we're joining up, in my case, the yellow fabric, and I'm going to go ahead and make 2 of these. I'll come back when it's time to press those out. Okay, I've sewn those together, and now I'm pressing towards my A square. So it looks like my seam allowance does not want to cooperate today, but we're going to be pressing towards the A square. There we go, that's a little better. And that completes our step number 2. Let's move on to step number 3. Moving on to step number 3, we're going to set aside step 2, and for step number 3, we're going to sew a small triangle of C to a small triangle of A. We're going to make 2 of these, and I'll come back when it's time to press them out. Okay, I've sewn those together, and now we're pressing towards our C fabric. In my case, it's this bright orange fabric. So there we go. There are 2 half square triangles. Let's move on to step number 4. All right, moving on to step number 4, it says to join a D square to the left of a step 3. So we don't have anything that matches this time, but your D is going to go on the left, and then your CA is going to go on the right. I'm going to go ahead and combine these together just like this, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, we finished step number 4. We're going to move on to step number 5. With step number 5, it says to join a D rectangle to the top of a step 4. So what we just finished, we're going to connect them just like this, and then we're going to add a step 2 on top, just like this. So our D fabric is all going to be touching. It feels a little weird, but I'm sure this will make sense in the end. I'm going to go ahead and sew these all together, and I'll come back when I'm pressing them out. Okay, I've sewn them all, both together, and now we're pressing down towards the bottom of this clue piece. So I'm just going to keep pressing it towards the bottom, just like that. There we go. So I have now finished section 7B. I'm going to go ahead and set this aside, and we'll move on to section 7C. Okay, moving on to section 7C, we're going to start off with 1.1. It says to sew an E square to the left of a D square. So we're just going to put those 2 together just like that. 1.2 says to sew a C square to the right of a D square. So we're going to put those together just like that. And then 1.3 says to sew a step 1.1 to the top of a 1.2. So our D squares are going to be diagonal to each other, and it should form something that looks like this. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together. We're going to be doing this 4 times, so I'm going to sew 4 of these together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, we have finished our steps 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. The pressing directions, by the way, are on your sheet, but for your E and D, you're going to press towards your E. For your D and C, you're going to press towards your C, and then when you put them all together, you're going to press down towards your D and C. Let's move on to step number 2. For step number 2, it says to join an A rectangle to the left of a step 1.3, so we're just going to put those together just like that. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn all 4 of those together, and now I'm pressing up towards the top of my, well, it's not the top, it's actually towards the right side. I was going to say the top because that's how I'm looking at it at this moment, but we're going to press towards the right side. I have completed all 4 of those. Let's go ahead and move on to step number 3. Okay, I was a little confused when I was looking back at the instructions. I got fabric F in this packet, but there was no fabric F listed in the pieces for this packet. So I was very confused and set them aside thinking that they weren't needed, but that's okay because they are needed. In fact, for our step number 3, our F pieces are going to be attached to the left of an A rectangle. So we're going to put these together just like this. So glad that I held on to them and didn't store them away somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and sew this together. We're going to make 4 of these in total. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll come back when I'm pressing it out. Okay, I have sewn all 4 of those together, and I'm pressing towards my F fabric, just like that. So I have 4 of those. Let's go ahead and move to our last and final step. We're going to move to step number 4. All right, it says for step number 4 to join a step number 3 to the top of a step number 2, just like this. We're going to nest this seam right here in this corner. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. Okay, I've sewn all 4 of those together, and now I'm pressing towards the bottom portion away from my A rectangle. I don't know exactly how to, basically towards the bottom of this square. There we go. We are now done with section 7C. Okay, there we go. We have finished our 7A, 7B, and 7C. I'm going to label them as such, and then we'll get ready for month number 8 next time. I'm super excited and can't wait to see how this one comes out.